It's the JJYP podcast.
Broadcasting from a tiny little town in the Midwest, from a tiny little state, from a tiny little planet flying 22,000 miles through the open sky. This is the Just Josh and You podcast. And today we have an awesome guest. We have Joshua Treadway.
That's me.
That's you.
That's
bud.
me.
The
Here in
Crocodile Dundee of Milford.
Here in the flesh.
Do you remember the first time we met?
I don't remember the first time we met, but I don't want you to think anything weird about that because most of the people in Milford, I don't remember the first time I met.
Okay. Well,
I meet all y'all at the bar.
So,
So
you're just saying I was just normally run of the mill. Yeah, there wasn't.
Well, no, maybe not really that, but I mean the fact that I meet all of y'all at the same tiny little bar.
Right.
And, usually I've been out hunting all day and it's very cold. And so when I get done, I mean, what am I ready to do? I'm going to have 2-3 drinks before I talk to any of you. And then I meet somebody and it's like, great. I'm still not over the day. I'm cold. I'm freezing. My feet are cold. Give me a minute.
Why do you torture yourself?
That is a great question. And you know what? My own mother asked me this constantly. When I get home and I bitch about these trips that I go on, she says, why? Why do you do this to yourself? And I really don't have an answer other than when you get a big one of whatever you're hunting, you just feel like King Dick. I mean, there's no better. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I could tone it down and be like, what? I'm not going to say any of that. It just feels good to kill a big one.
It's a big
It's
deal.
A rush.
It's a big deal
It's a
around
rush.
here.
It's a rush.
It's a big industry.
It's a rush.
I was introduced to it only from moving here.
Right.
Like it's not like that in
Right.
this, the city.
No,
where
this
I'm
is
from.
not an everywhere thing. This is
It's not.
There's big deer that live here, and people that come here,
Guys
they're
walk
looking for
around
big deer.
with pliers, on your side and
Well,
holstered.
I don't know about pliers.
No,
but,
dude, I saw this
yeah,
the other day. People walk around with pliers in a sheath
Yeah.
around here.
Yeah,
and
well,
I'm just like,
I personally don't have any pliers. I have no pliers. But yes, no. I mean, like we do have our things. I mean, I do have a backpack full of shit. And the thing is like you get to the tree and you get up the tree and you think that you're going to use all this shit that you have. And literally you get up there and you're cold and you're like, well, a lot of times I'm hungover. And you're like, I'm not going to use any of this. I just humped all this shit 2 miles and in a 30-pound pack, and I'm not pulling any of this out.
See, that's why I've never been hunting, man. It doesn't sound okay. The actual kill, that seems a little intoxicating.
Right.
But the whole process before and the whole
Right.
process after just seems completely exhausting.
So I think it takes like a really fucked up brain. Because I can't explain it, but like when I wake up in the morning and I know I'm going to go hunting, even if I'm sick, it's like, man, this is going to be an awesome day. And I think that maybe has a lot to do with the fact that, these days we're such people of, we do the same thing over and over and over every day. And you just get to whatever that thing is that you do. Like some people, it's a cruise. They go on a cruise every summer and they work their ass off to get to the cruise. For me, I'm fortunate. I get to hunt more than most people that even like to hunt. But I know that for me, I go to work every day, and the only thing I give a shit about is to make it to the next one. I mean, if you ask me what my schedule is hunting-wise for the next year, I can tell you exactly where I'm going and what I'm hunting. But if you ask me what I'm doing next week and what customers I'm seeing, I got to look at my phone.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions then. So first of all, what's your favorite thing to hunt?
So there is a sheep in West Texas. It's called an Aoudad. And I may get the year wrong, but I'm probably close. In about 1946, all the ranchers in West Texas, I mean, these are guys that have 50, 60, 70,000 acre ranches. there was really nothing to hunt out there. The elk hadn't moved in. There was a few mule deer, a few whitetails, but they didn't have a lot. And they wanted to find another thing to do on these cattle ranches. And these are ranches that, it's 60,000 acres, but you can put, one cow per 50 acres. So they brought in a sheep called an aoudad from the northern coast of Africa. And they took over. They're actually now considered, there's still exotic game in Texas, but people that live in Texas and hunt, we consider them native game because they're there. And it's a great hunt that you can do. It's just as good as the trips I've made to Alaska hunting Dall sheep. It's the same thing. I mean, it's mountain. It's a hard hunt. It's hiking. It's climbing. It's all that stuff. But you're doing it right in West Texas, and you're spending, a tenth of the money. So that over the years has become my favorite thing to do. I've been on some nasty ones, falling in cactus, falling down cliffs and all that shit, trying to, the benchmark is 30 inches. If you get one with a 30-inch horn, that's what we call like a big trophy. And so I've hunted them for a really long time. It's gotten more expensive now, but last October I was able to take my biggest one I've ever taken at 34 inches, and I was giddy like a schoolgirl.
Have you ever hunted in Utah?
I have.
Where's your favorite place?
I've hunted mule deer in Utah. I've never hunted elk because I've never drawn a tag, but I've hunted mule deer there. Utah's one of those states. So all the states out west now, it's one of the things like you have to draw a tag for almost everything. So I spend thousands of dollars a year putting in for these tags that take 20, 25 years to draw, or you just win the lottery, get lucky, you draw like a really badass tag, and it happens sooner than you think. But that doesn't happen often.
Right.
So basically, I spend a shitload of money every year just knowing that one day, probably when I'm about 50 and these knees don't work anymore, that I'm going to draw like a bunch of shit I can't hunt anymore. It's going to be awesome.
But you're loving the journey. Like
the
obviously,
journey, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
this is your passion.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me. I don't really care about anything else. I mean,
what got you in? What started you out on the hunting game?
So my dad hunts, but my dad's like the hunter that when I was a kid, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so hunting was more of a thing that we did because that was a source of entertainment. It was cheap. So my dad had a piece of land in Texas, and with a few buddies of his, and about every weekend, during deer season, we would go deer hunting. And my mother had no problem with it because, hey, he's out of the house, I'm out of the house, they're gone, and we went hunting, and they weren't big deer. And my dad was the kind of guy like, he didn't wear camo. I mean, Dad was like in a red sweatshirt smoking a cigar, and I'm like, Dad, I've been reading magazines, and I think this cigar smoke is going to scare him off, And Dad's like, son, I've killed more deer with a cigar in my mouth than you'll ever see, And it just kind of grew from there, and I started like getting magazine subscriptions, and I would see these crazy things, I'd like sheep in other countries and stuff, and I dreamed about it. And honestly, I think the only reason I'm successful is that that was my drive. I really tried hard at work and tried to make businesses work because I wanted enough money to be able to go and experience these things that I saw in magazines. And, I haven't gotten to do all the things I would like to do, but I have been fortunate, and I've seen most of the really cool things that I've seen, the things that you would see on your deathbed, the things that you would remember, have mostly happened to me in places that, other feet have never stepped on. So, I think it's one of those things like you're either in love with it or you're not. And for me, the first time it ever happened, the first time I went to Alaska, I saved my money, saved my pennies, whatever. I think I was maybe 22, 23, and I went to Alaska, And I remember standing up on this mountain in the pouring down rain, being miserable. But then the thought hit me that I'm standing in a place that probably no one's ever stood on. And if something happens to me, if I was to fall off this cliff and die, they'll never find me and they'll never know what happened.
That's a comforting feeling.
To me, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I know that sounds weird, but it's really, it is. It's a comforting. It's not a, I guess not comforting, but it's a fuck you feeling. You know, I mean, like,
oh, kind of like the throwing the middle finger.
Yeah, I mean,
the whole establishment.
Well, he just didn't come back, and we actually have no clue what happened. But I mean, that's kind of a.
But you would have gone out, and doing what you
doing
love
what
doing.
You absolutely love to do, man.
Do you think it's uncommon for someone to have a passion and have it last their entire lives?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I know guys that I used to golf. I played golf in school, and I played golf every day from 8 years old to whatever, college. And then one day I was like, man, this is the stupidest game I've ever played. I'm a member of a country club. I pay all this money, and basically we're just out here to drink and play cards. Like I really don't give a shit about golf. And as good as I used to be at it, I'm not good anymore. I don't know why I'm doing this. And maybe that happens to people that hunt, but I don't think so.
But
I think if you're...
But you even found a way to encompass it into your occupation.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I make my money in the foundry business, but quality hunts it is my retirement plan. I mean, it was a dream of mine, and, you know, anybody in America and other countries that has a truck can call themselves an outfitter.
Sure.
So what I found was over the years, when I was young and I was saving money and trying to go on hunts, you know, I would look for bargain basement stuff, and all of a sudden, like, you're on a really bad, shitty hunt that they didn't give you what you paid for.
Right.
So I was sitting at a campfire in a New Mexico elk hunt, and my future business partner was there, and we were just, he's 20 years older than I am, and he'd been doing the same thing as me, but for 20 years longer, and we were talking about all the money we had spent just pissed away. Like, you know, this guy's going to give me this great hunt in the Rockies, and we're going to ride horses and do all this shit, and then you get up there, and all you do is freeze your ass off. You didn't see an elk. It was terrible. There was no firewood. The food sucked. The tent leaked. Whatever. And so it just, that night we kind of back and forth, and then we talked a few weeks later, and I was like, you know, I think there's a better way to do this. I think that if we started a business and we offered only hunts, that if we built it slow and built it with outfitters that we know, that we've hunted with, or that really good friends have hunted with, then we could come up with something where we don't have to worry about sending somebody on a camping trip, you know? Because as a hunter, that's what we call it. A bad hunt is a camping trip. I don't want to go on a camping trip.
No.
Like, I want to be the guy that gets out the first day and kills a big one, and that's it.
Right.
I want to pay for the full week, but I want to kill in the first morning. I want the full boat. And unfortunately, we're in a business that doesn't really happen, because just like me, you know, a lot of kids come up and they think, oh, this is what I want to do for a living. So they start an outfitting company, and they get a website, and they put the 3 pictures of the 3 biggest ones they've ever seen on there.
Right.
And then they trick some dumbass into paying them, you know, a couple $1,000 less than what a good hunt costs. And then they take them out there on a camping trip. And when you go on enough of those, you know, for me, it was elk. I went on 9 archery elk hunts. I spent over $100,000 elk hunting, and I never even shot at an elk.
Holy crap.
And so I met my business partner, and again, he's a little older than I am, so obviously he, you know, had more success than I did, was spending more money than I was on hunting, and he said, you know, you got to stop doing that. I mean, here's the thing. Do you want to go 3 times and just be there, or do you want to go and do you want to kill one once and spend more money? And I actually had to think about that because I love being out there.
Right.
I would like to be out there all the time. But at the end of the day, it is about taking an animal, taking a trophy. So, I mean, do I want to pay $10,000 3 times and not kill an elk, or do I want to pay $15,000 one time and kill a big bull? I mean, it took me 20 years to figure out that 15 once is better.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to provide for people.
And that's what you've been doing, though, because
that's what I've been doing.
You've been successful. And how did that? Is that what brought you to Milford?
No, so actually, I have an uncle that was shooting his bow in Conroe, Texas, beside the house, and a man just happened by, and I won't say his name because he could be famous and he doesn't want to be. He lives here and he's a taxidermist, and he is a prolific deer hunter. He has killed, his walls are full of monster bucks that he killed with a recurve bow, which, if you don't know what that is, that's not the newfangled things we use, but just a stick bow. And he's killed them on public land. And so the guy happened by his house, and I think this was in 1997. And he stopped just to talk to my uncle, and my uncle, just being my uncle, was like, could I come up there and hunt with you? And this man that I'm talking about, being the very, very nice guy he is, was like, absolutely. So my uncle came up here for probably 10 years, and I'm the young, I'm a high school kid, like, please take me, please take me, please take me. He's like, no, I can't, it's not my deal. And then when I got out of college, he said, I'm getting old. I just can't do this public land thing anymore. The walking's too much. I'm going to take you up to Kansas, and I'm going to introduce you to my buddy, and I'm going to let you get started up there. And that was 15 years ago. And I've been coming up here ever since. And this is one of those deals, like, I don't pay for this. This is like a walk around, do it thing. And I fell in love with it. It's my favorite trip of the year, and it's not quite like, the things that we do, like going to Africa or hunting somewhere crazy, the Middle East. But it is, for me, it's my favorite thing of the year. I know that on November 17th, I'm going to be in Milford, Kansas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and that's how I met you.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and then history was made, and the two Joshes collided, and now the world will never be the same.
That'll never be the same ever. Yeah.
No, but you always look, I'm not trying to butter you up because I'm not trying to get in on a hunt program, but you were just always the badass. You know what I mean? You have the hat, you got the mountain man look, and you just don't look like someone that should be trifled with. You know what I'm saying? Like the 007, the Crocodile Dundee.
I think maybe some of that's just because I grew up really short. But, yeah, whatever. I grew up on the Republican side of things, so whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm from Texas, man.
Don't mess with Texas.
We can't, you can't just let somebody be crazy, whatever. But, yeah.
Man, what a different landscape that we're living in now, though. Like how did COVID affect your hunting business and in going out yourself? Like, did that?
So actually, the opposite of what I thought was going to happen happened. So unfortunately, the hunting business hunting in general has become a rich man's sport. And it sucks. I hate it because I get a lot of guys that call me and they're like, hey, man, I would love to hunt. I've wanted to hunt an elk my whole life. What can you do? And I'm like, look, do you want to hunt an elk or do you want to shoot an elk? And if you want to shoot one, then you need to triple your budget and call me back in 3 years and save your money, because I don't want to send you and you come back and be like, that sucked.
Yeah, that was
I
a terrible
would
experience.
rather you put quarters in a jar
Right.
and call me in 3 years and let me send you somewhere and you come back and be like, man, that was the greatest experience of my life. And unfortunately, we're at a point that it's gotten really expensive, and I thought that COVID would bring it down, but now it actually did the opposite. We have, whatever you want to call them. I mean, the 1%, whatever it is, which I don't have a problem with. I mean, they pay all the taxes, whatever. But a lot of those guys hunt, and they have a lot of money.
Right.
And so they got bored during COVID. And so, whereas I thought prices would come down, now it's the upper end animals, like a stone sheep. Before COVID, we were selling stone sheep for $40,000. And that sounds like a ridiculous number. And it is. And that's not lost on me. But now I have stone sheep outfitters that are $75,000 because they're booked until 2026.
Okay, but I have to ask, if you pay $75,000, what does that get you?
That gets you
what does that trip look like?
That gets you a chance to fly there on a puddle plane and get in a tent and hope you kill one.
That's it.
That's it.
But
that's the other thing.
$70,000.
We also live in a world where, people want things right now. So we have high fence ranches. And if you want to go kill a big deer and pay for it, I'm fine with that. I've done it. It is what it is.
Well, and if people are willing to pay that, then it's
Right.
obviously worth it to them.
And
right?
I've got guys that I don't knock it, because I've got guys that are CEOs of companies that get 4 or 5 days off a year. And look, man, they don't have time to go fly to Alaska and hope you get home next month. They just don't. So I send them to a high fence ranch to shoot a big deer, and they shoot a deer that costs $20,000. And people look down on that, but I'm like, wait a minute. They're outside. They're doing what they like. And it's not about the money. It's about this guy has this much time. What's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it better for
it's
him to sit at
perspective.
home and look at North American Whitetail Magazine?
Right.
Or is it better for him to go to a high fence ranch when he gets 3 days off and go ahead and shoot a big deer?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. Is
No,
it two
I'm
different
with you.
things? Absolutely. It's two completely different things. But I don't think it's a bad thing either.
Well, of course not. There's a lot of things that I think that people spend money on, and I personally think it's stupid, but I don't judge that thing. That's what they want to do. If you want to go spend that amount of money to go do that, then all the more power to you. I'm sure that there's things I buy that people are like,
Well,
what
sure.
in the
I
hell
mean,
is he doing? And it's like,
Well,
look, it's what I like.
Look, you got hunters that look down their nose at guys that only have a couple days off a year that go to the high fence ranch to shoot a big deer, but they also are the same guys that, go to the grocery store and buy sliced cheese.
Right.
Come on, man, you're splitting hairs.
So have you met anybody famous doing this hunting thing?
I've been on TV a couple times on hunting shows. I did Texas Trophy Hunters a couple times. And, I grew up same as everybody else that likes to hunt. You watch these shows on TV and you think, oh, man, I would love to be on a hunting show. That would be the dream.
Right.
It's not exactly what you think it's going to be.
Well, you had a kind of a bad experience on one of them, didn't you?
Yeah, it's
You kinda got bombarded a
cool,
little
and
bit.
I'm not going to say what show it was, but it was cool. It wasn't. It's not. Wasn't a bad experience. It was just. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I thought that you just go on a hunt and somebody videos you doing it. That's not what it is. And that was my stupidity, because obviously if you're going to make an hour TV show, there has to be some kind of
spin.
Yeah. There's got to be a lot of stuff goes into that. That hour TV show, we probably had 20 hours of footage for. So obviously a lot goes into that. And I can respect that. For me, I personally don't want the show because I love to hunt. So it just kind of ruins the experience.
Have you had a oh shit moment though hunting?
Oh man,
Was there a time?
I've had plenty of ocean.
Okay,
moments,
give me one of your craziest stories.
So when I went on my first brown bear hunt, this was probably, I think it was about 2013, and I'd saved my money, and now a brown bear hunt's 30 grand. And back then it was maybe 10,000, and I saved and saved and saved, and I was like, all right, I'm going on a brown bear hunt. I've wanted to do this my whole life. I'm going to go. It didn't turn out to be a great trip, and it wasn't their fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. It rained the whole time. But
man.
one of the only days we actually got out of the tent to go hunt, the guide put me on in the bank of this river, and he did it because there was a bear coming down the river. So I'm sitting there with a bow, and I had no idea where he went. And of course, your guide has a big gun, because I'm bow hunting. So I can hear the bear coming down the river. Splash, 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 splash. And I'm backed up in this riverbank, and the next thing I know, the bear is there. And the bear has no idea I'm there. But I'm literally 10, 12 feet from the bear. And this is I don't know what they weigh, 1,000-pound brown bear.
They're absolutely ginormous.
Right. But as soon as it came around the corner, I knew it wasn't a boar. It was a sow. That's not what we're looking for. So at this point, it becomes defense. Like, will the bear see me? Will the bear think I'm tasty? Will the bear want to eat me? Well, what's this bear going to do?
Right.
So, I mean, I think there's an old expression like, you couldn't get a greased BB out of my ass. I was so fucking scared. And I had never, so that was my first experience, like being on a hunt where there was a lot of shit that can kill you. So, I mean, I was scared. And you're sitting there with a bow, and you're like, well, how fast can I possibly draw this bow? And would the arrow even kill it fast enough before it, tasted my face? And so the bear was so close, I actually could hear it breathing, and there's snot and shit coming out of its nose. And I'm like,
oh, man.
I'm like, oh, my God. Well, it moves on, and I take it upon myself. I'm like, I'm about to ease back up this riverbank and get the fuck out of here.
Out of Dodge, right.
So I turn around, and I go about 3 feet, and he's right behind me. I had no idea. And I'm like, holy shit. Did you see that bear? And he was like, dude, I was behind you the whole time. He's like, I mean, you're my customer. I mean, I had a gun on it the whole time. I didn't know that.
Holy crap.
I mean, I just thought, well,
yeah. He's like,
fuck, if the bear wants me to be dead, then I'm going to be dead.
It's over.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some things over the years happen to me like that. I mean, I've had black bear charge me. I mean, I've had a moose almost run over me. Some of the shit that you hunt, you don't even know is dangerous that actually is. I mean, like a moose. People don't think about moose. Moose are dangerous. Like a moose will get you in the water and stomp your ass out and drown you and turn you into a puddle of mud. People don't realize that. But yeah, I mean, when you get off these little float planes in the middle of nowhere, you really are at the mercy of wherever the fuck you are. And I think that's the draw of it.
Well, it's also the thrill of being out in the wild and being in their element, though, right? I mean, because you can prepare, like you said, and take all the stuff with you that you think you'll need, but there's still that element of uncertainty, and you're out,
always,
you're out there in
always.
the middle of nature,
Always.
and to be able to experience it. I'll bet you've seen like the animals that you're not hunting. I'll bet you've seen some amazing shit.
So, I mean, like for instance, I've hunted Kodiak Island several times, and there's not actually a lot of big game animals that live on Kodiak. You have mountain goat, Sitka black-tailed deer, and brown bears. But, that's where everybody goes to hunt Sitka deer because they're like ants. There's shitloads of them. But you have to deal with brown bears while you're there because there's a bunch of them. And so the first time I ever went there to hunt Sitka deer, we walk into the camp. Probably, I don't know. We walked a long way to camp. Maybe we got off at sea level from the plane, went up. I mean, we maybe walked 8-9 miles first day. We get to where the tents are already set up, and I'd never been there. And this was early in my hunting shit. And I'm like, why is there I looked at it. I'm from Texas. I looked at it a cattle hot wire. I'm like, why is there a hot wire around this tent?
Right.
He's like, well, because there's a lot of Sitka deer, but there's a shitload of brown bears too. And so like every night you're camped on this stream and you can hear the brown bears like 10 feet from your tent, catching fish. And at the end of the day, you can put up hot wires, you can have a gun, you can do whatever you want. But what you have to get over is the fact that if the brown bear decides that he wants to eat the Happy Meal that's in the tent, he's going to eat the Happy Meal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So it's, again, I think that's one of the draws of it is that you get out there in a place that you actually don't have control. Because I think you go through life, and I think if you're successful, then one thing successful people have in common is that you have control. Emotions don't play into your everyday life. If most very successful people are able to keep that under control. So every day you go through life with an immense amount of control, and you get out there and you have none. You have zero. Your whole existence is based on, what your capabilities are and what the guide's capabilities are. And I think that's the draw of it is we leave a life that is scheduled and, I don't go here because it's dangerous. And then you go to a place that's dangerous. And even if there's not anything there that would eat you, it's dangerous because, I took a float plane over 150 miles of ground that has no roads on it, and I landed here. So if I sprain an ankle, it's dangerous.
See, and I've never experienced anything like that before. I can only imagine, but that would be so cool to be in a place where very, very few, if not any, people have ever set foot.
Right, and these guys, they do hunt the same places over and over, but at the end of the day, maybe somebody stood there before, but maybe only the person that he's brought there.
Right.
I found myself one time standing, it was raining so hard in Alaska on the Kenai Peninsula that I couldn't even see. And I thought, well, I'm going to back up under this tree. Like this big tree had fallen down because it really there. It's if you think about it, it's really more of a rainforest.
Right.
So I backed up under the roots of this fallen tree. So I sat there all day in the rain. Couldn't see shit. So I went back to camp, and the next day I thought it was raining again. I thought, well, I'm going to go back to that tree and maybe, the rain will stop. And so I did. I went right back to the same place. And I was actually hunting black bears at the time, but there's brown bears there. So I back up under this tree, and it gets light outside, and I look down, and I'm standing under the root bed of this tree, and like you could tell it was a bed for something. And then I look around the tree, and it's, paw prints that are brown bear size. So I'm like, holy shit,
cow.
Probably an hour before I got here, 1,000-pound brown bear decided, well, I'm going to go fishing. And, this little snack can have my spot, So I think it's just, I don't think it's for everybody, but I think if you get addicted to it, it's one of those things that, like, I think about it every day, all day long.
Why do the haters hate it?
Well, I think they just don't understand. So it's a proven fact. I hear a lot and I get a lot of hate mail. I get a lot. And I get people that say, how can you say that taking something's life is conservation? Well, that's an easy answer. and it's provable. So if you take Africa, in countries that don't allow elephant hunting, there's no elephants. In countries that allow elephant hunting, there is a shitload of elephants, because you have guys that are willing to come and pay $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to shoot an elephant. And what that does is what they don't understand is the majority of that money doesn't go to some rich outfitter in Africa. Those guys, when they have a concession, they are responsible for the villages in that concession. So, you know, they butcher this elephant, and this is the only meat that these people get.
Right.
And they are responsible for setting up schools in these villages. Like, this is the only education that these people get. And that comes from money from idiots like me that are willing to spend $60,000 to shoot an elephant.
But you're against people that go out and hunt and don't use them.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
But the perfect example I would give you, so in America, personally, I believe we have a bad problem of telling other countries what they should do with their game.
Right.
So the perfect example, and everybody hates it because of Coca-Cola. The polar bear. Yeah. You know, they show these polar bears, oh, he's on a piece of ice and can't find where he's going. Bullshit. The Canadians are begging us to send more polar bear hunters because they have more polar bears than they've ever had. And you can't tell me that that's not true, because I've been there.
Right.
And everybody that's been there will tell you that TV's full of shit. So what happens is you've got a population that is now uncontrollable. So now, sure, you can find a polar bear that's starving to death because there's not enough ground for them anymore, and we're not controlling them. And there's very few guys that will spend $35,000 to shoot a polar bear to take a picture. Right. Because right now, that's all you can do. My business partner killed one last year. And right now, the hide is wrapped up, the skull's wrapped up, and it's in a freezer in Canada, waiting for the next reasonable president to open it up, where he can bring his stuff back in and get it mounted. Now, these Inuits that live there, these natives that live there, that they let basically do whatever they want. I mean, you think that, oh, the big bad rich American hunter guy is so bad because he wants to go kill a polar bear. They can kill whatever they want 365 days a year.
Well, and it's funny because all of those liberal politicians hunt.
Right. And so here's the deal. The guys like me are not the ones out beating the seals. The ones out beating the seals are the Inuit people. And they're not doing it for any bad reason. They that's what they eat.
Right.
So they make clothes out of. So that's the example that I would use that everyone hates, is the polar bear. And people think that by watching TV that, oh my God, there's no polar bears left. You know, I can remember telling my dad that my business partner was going to polar bear hunt and that I was going to book for the next year. And he's like, well, can't kill a polar bear. There's barely any left. I'm like, well, no, actually, there's more than there needs to be. And the Canadians would love to have some of our money to shoot a few of them.
How do the Canadian press handle that versus the press of the United States?
So they used to be good about it, but now obviously we've got this guy in Canada, this liberal dick, I'll call him, you know, that is a fucking maniac. So he's, you know, I mean, I think they're old school Germany style. I mean, I think, you know, that guy runs the press there. I mean, and it's complete horseshit. I mean,
I gotta ask you, dude, what do you guys think of Ted Cruz?
So I actually love Ted Cruz, and I will say that, and this is the reason. So every year I'm on the AFS board of directors, and we have a conference where we go to Washington, D.C., and we meet with
Explain to the audience what AFS is.
So that's the American Foundry Society. My other job, I sell foundry supplies.
Okay.
So I've been on the board of directors for 10 years. And we have a government affairs committee when we go to Washington every year, and we speak to the senators and congressmen about the issues in our field, because we represent a lot of jobs. And at the end of the day, they can say whatever they want, but their job it relies on what kind of jobs they're providing. So our industry has a lot of jobs. And so we actually do get to meet with, people that are important, and I want to say I think they listen to us. And some of them don't. Some of them you're there for a glad hand and a picture. Ted Cruz is the kind of guy that not only listens to you, but he follows up. So, point in case, 2 years ago, we went to Washington, and I had no idea, but all the senators actually have a office under the Senate floor. And I didn't know that, because we had always met him in his office, like at the Capitol. And they said, hey, Mr. Cruz still wants to meet with you, but they're doing a lot of votes, and he'd like to meet with you in his other office. So, we have to go through another check and all this stuff. And then there is actually a train under the Senate. And you get on this little trolley on a track and ride through, and there's Secret Service people and all this crazy shit. It was cool. It was like being in one of those Matt Damon movies, So we go there, and we go to this tiny little office. Obviously, there's no windows because it's on the Senate floor. And Ted Cruz came in, and they had been doing some, I guess there was a lot of votes going on. So he was up there, and he came down, and he said, guys, I really want to meet with y'all. That's why I brought you down here, and I want to give you full time. And I knew I couldn't run over to my other office and do this. And so he actually, I will say this about him. We have a law that is affecting the industry right now, and it's about silica. And, most people don't know what that is. But silica is a dust, and it's a byproduct that is in the foundry business. And you can get whatever. I think it's silica poisoning or whatever, but it's basically cancer. So they are trying to make foundries put in air cleaners that cost millions of dollars. And this will put most foundries out of business, especially.
Explain. I don't think a lot of people know what foundries are.
So a foundry is basically anything poured out of metal.
Okay.
Like anything that's cast out of metal, we pour it into molds and we cast it. So this silica is a byproduct of it. Well, most foundry guys are old. I'm 43 and I'm young in the business. I've been the youngest guy in it since I got in it at 24, and I'm 43. I'm still the youngest guy. But when you get all these guys in a room, they can only come up with one name that ever got this silica poison. So it's not as big of a deal as they pretend it is.
Yeah.
So Senator Cruz asked, what are we facing right now? What is affecting y'all? And I said to him, the silica law, it's a big deal. And when you have the Chinese making castings for what they make them for, you're going to put everyone out of business. And he said, well, you're going to have to tell me what that is. And me being who I am, and I didn't mean to do it because I have the utmost respect for the guy and all senators, Democrat, Republican, whatever. I said, well, goddamn, you voted on it. And
oh, shit.
And you know what? He didn't get mad at all. He actually, when you're meeting with him, they have a guy behind him taking notes, and he looked at that guy with the face of, you better have written that shit down. And 2 weeks later, we heard from him. I mean, he actually did what he said he was going to do, and he looked into it. And at the time, and even now, even now after these midterm elections, I don't think that they have the votes to overturn it, but they're not enforcing it yet.
But do you think but that's a great example of the press. I mean, we were kind of told this was going to be like a big awakening, the midterm elections.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
nothing happened.
Yeah, but I mean, and this is just me, and whatever. I may be one of those crazy conspiracy theorists that just talks about conspiracies that in the last 10 years seem to keep coming true.
Right.
But, I mean, how is it that Florida can count all their votes in 5 hours, but Arizona takes a week? And it just so happens that a woman running for governor is also in charge of, the election. That's not a conspiracy theory.
No,
that's bullshit.
That whole
and there's videos and videos and videos and videos of people walking out of these places and saying the voting machines don't work.
Yeah.
In the only county basically in Arizona that counts, Maricopa County. So you look at it and, I'm a political science major. That's what I went to college for. I don't know why. Don't ask me.
I thought it would have been taxidermy.
Right. So, to me, it's a slap in the face because there was supposed to be this red wave. Okay. I personally didn't think it was going to happen. And I didn't think it was going to happen because that wasn't the way people were voting. I thought it wasn't going to happen because if we're just being honest, I mean, I think the presidential election was a hoax.
Right.
And so you had all these states that were supposed to be a landslide, more than Florida. But Florida, every single election was won by a Republican by 20 points. But these states like Pennsylvania that were supposed to be a bigger landslide, we either lost or barely won. But they're all also the same states that, you can mail in your vote, and as long as it gets here a week after, it's fine.
Right.
Like, why?
Yeah.
And I think that Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to say, we're the stupid ones because I don't think the way to fix this is to stop the cheating. I think the way you fix this is very easy. And I'm a guy, I look for the easy route out. So we have a national holiday for everything on the planet.
Right.
So why not just say Election Day is a national holiday? Why do we need 2 weeks of early voting?
The most important
Why do we need
time.
You need mail-in voting
for that, yeah.
Right. You need mail-in voting for senior citizens and handicapped people.
That's an interesting point.
And so you make voting day, election day, a national holiday, and you give everybody off of work, and then you say, you know what, guess what? You don't need 2 fucking weeks. Because now you have no excuse not to run down and this bullshit about I stood in line for 30 minutes, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that.
Right.
Where does that happen? Where does it actually happen? And why do we never see videos of it? Because I live in Texas. Everyone votes in Texas.
Right. Well, I mean, not everyone.
Not everyone. But I mean, it's actually sad. I mean, so I live in what is known as the reddest county in America. So I live in Montgomery County.
That is pretty red.
So the only, like, if you look at just, say, the Ted Cruz election, when I'm not going to call him Beto because that's bullshit. When Francis O'Rourke ran against him, Montgomery County actually made up the votes that it took to beat him.
Wow.
Everyone in Montgomery County votes. Everyone votes. I've never stood in line for more than 10 minutes.
So if you had to choose, though, between DeSantis or Ted Cruz, who would you choose?
So I'm not going to pick either. And here's the thing. I think that DeSantis is going to make a hell of a president in 28.
You think you think he'll run and win?
In 28.
Really?
No, yeah, in 28. Because in 24, this is Trump's time.
You think he's going to win?
No. So here's the thing. I don't know, because are we going to clean this shit up?
Oh, I don't think so.
Do I think that people on the right have decided that it's Trump's destiny? It's his. He deserves it. He was cheated. He needs to be the next one. And look, I personally believe he saved the country. But
don't you think he'd be a lame duck?
Not at all. I think he would be like, I'm not going to run again, so I'm going to do whatever the hell I want.
Right. But
and
what's
have
but
the
what's
house.
the point? This is my whole point in this rabbit hole that I'm leading you down here.
Yeah.
Is I feel like the back and forth is the very definition of insanity. Anything Trump does is going to be taken away, just like it was recently with the president that we have now. Right. So my question is, the person I want to vote for is the person that says, I want to get in and eliminate, I want term limitations for the House and the Senate.
Yeah, but you're never getting that.
Okay, well, then you're never going to beat the corruption.
I agree with you 100%.
So why vote?
But what I'll say is this. So Trump had a standing rule in the White House that for every single policy they made, as it had to do with industry, production, they had to get rid of 2. And, we have policies on the books that are insane. I'm in the foundry business. I mean, the shit that we deal with it's absurd. I mean, It is rules that make no sense. You have the Chinese are over there making castings barefooted for, $1 an hour. And over here, you got to wear a fresh air mask and special boots, and you got to pay everybody $40 an hour. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm a capitalist. So if I'm buying castings, I'm not buying them here.
Right.
I'm an American all the way. I love America. Red, white, and blue, baby. But I mean,
you also have a bottom line.
When it comes to my business,
yeah.
I mean, I'm here to make money. So if I got to buy from the Chinese, then that's who I'll buy from. So I don't think that, I think it's a twofold thing. One, I think that everyone on the right believes, and I think it's justified, that Trump deserves another term. And 2, I think that if you don't believe that what he did was good, it's because you don't actually follow politics. You follow CNN. Because all of this stuff is public knowledge. And that's what drives me crazy. Like, you can get online and go to these .gov sites, and you can see how your senator, your representative, your state representative votes. You can see it. You can look at every one of them. And so, even on the right, we reelect these quote-unquote rhinos.
Right.
That if anybody just took the time to look at, they would realize this guy's, he campaigns on one thing and votes on another. And so we're at a point where you need people like, and you're going to have more than half the country say they're crazy, but you need people like Trump and Cruz and DeSantis and folks like that are willing to stand up and say what is thought of as crazy stuff, but it's exactly what you and I would be saying if we were there. And it just sounds crazy because all the other guys, they're not saying it because the only thing they care about is getting reelected.
See, I think Mitt Romney would make a great president.
Oh, my God. I will come over this desk. I mean, Mitt Romney, and here's the thing about
Mitt Romney's a douche.
Here's the thing about Mitt. Not only is he a douchebag Democrat,
he's douche.
But the guy was leading. He was fucking killing Obama and gave up. Now, what do you think that means? I mean, if it's me, and if I'm just spitballing here, I feel like when you have a giant lead in the presidential election and then you lay back and lose, I mean, it's probably because somebody gave you. Maybe he's a fucking capitalist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, money talks.
Money
right?
talks. And it's easy to say, well, I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do this because of my principles. But the scale that they're at, I mean, the amount of money that you're talking about. I mean, Biden asked Congress the other day for another $37 billion for Ukraine. That's an amount of money that most people don't
fathom,
comprehend.
Right.
It's not even fathom, it's comprehend. Like, you can't comprehend how much money that is.
Right.
So I think we're at a point where you have one side that believes they're being screwed, and the other side knows they're being screwed.
But but either way, it's unsustainable.
Absolutely.
So what happens?
Absolutely. You have one side that thinks they're being screwed because they watch TV.
Right.
And you have another side, us, who knows they're being screwed because I pay 33% in taxes.
Right.
So I don't think it's sustainable. And if I'm being honest, and it sounds ridiculous, it sounds crazy, and I hate to even say it, and my family hates when I say it, but there's no policy that's going to fix this. There's no election that's going to fix this.
Exactly, though. Exactly.
The only thing that fixes this is, and this sounds terrible, and I hate to say it, but blood in the street.
That's
it.
And that's exactly
it.
what
I mean, I have a T-shirt that says, it's got a picture of George Washington on it. It says, "Me and my homies would be stacking bodies."
Yep.
And people think that's so crazy, but if you look, and I'm a student of history, so if you look, we had the Tea Party, and we became our own country based on taxation without representation.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
If you look at what Great Britain was taxing us at the time, it's less than our own country taxes us now.
Right.
Now you tell me, why in the fuck are we just sending in our tax dollars and not saying anything?
Well, I think because we're paid not to.
Well, I don't think it's what we're paid not to. I think what it is exactly my family. My father is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. He's a Republican. He's a great guy. He's worked his whole life. The guy, he raised a family. He's always done the right thing. And when I say these things, my dad says things like, "Well, goddamn, Josh, what are you going to do? You going to not pay your taxes and go to jail?" Because in his mind, what he thinks about is, I have a family. I have a car payment. I have a house payment. I have all these things. And that's what matters today. But if you just go back, it's not like old George Washington and his buddies didn't have all those things. It was just different stuff.
No, but that's what's frustrating is it seems like the system has been designed to back us into a corner, mostly financially.
It absolutely
We don't
has.
have the room to do anything. If you're unhappy with anything, there's no room to go protest and fight in the street. You've got a mortgage payment due.
Right.
And you've got groceries that you have
Right.
to buy.
Right.
I went and bought a box of Twinkies the other day, and the Twinkies, Josh, are like, they're smaller.
They're smaller.
They're smaller.
I am a Twinkie fan.
What
I know
the
the Twinkies are small.
hell?
And they used to come in the 2-pack.
Yes.
And now they come in ones.
Yeah, and you don't
Yeah,
even get
hey,
the
man.
cardboard strip anymore.
No cardboard in the bottom.
No, it's just
No,
plain
no,
plastic.
no.
Pisses
So-
me off.
I was just talking about this with somebody the other day. So I live alone. I feed myself. That's it. I eat at home every night. I'm an eat at home guy. And that's a recent thing for me, but I'm an eat at home guy. So I go to the grocery store about every 10 days. And I'm frugal in a way and not. Like, there's things that I want and things that I don't care about. Like,
Sure.
when it comes to, like, sodas, I'll buy the HEB brand. I don't care.
Right.
But when it comes to, like, meat, I want to eat good.
Right.
But I am only feeding myself.
Right.
And every 10 days, I'm spending $300. And again, I'm blessed. I'm a fortunate guy. I mean, I can afford it.
Right.
But I start thinking about people that have 2 kids, and maybe mom doesn't work, and maybe dad makes a decent living, but maybe he makes 80, 90 grand a year.
Right.
If you do the math, that doesn't make sense.
No.
That is unsustainable.
Unsustainable. Right.
You can't have 2 cars, a house payment, and I mean, if you just triple the grocery bill that I pay, that leaves nothing.
Did you have to get student loans? Or
I did, and I'm actually still paying them because, like this new deal, this student loan forgiveness, I'm not for it at all. I'm not for it a bit. I think it's a railroad. I think I was shammed into it. I think it's predatory, but I signed the paper.
Do you think that education should just be available?
No.
Why?
Because I went to school for political science.
Okay.
I'm pretty successful.
Right.
I don't use my political science degree.
No.
So had I been, I didn't want to go to college. My parents basically made me.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I grew up
Okay.
in the, I was born in 80. So my whole life coming up, I mean,
that's what it was.
That's
soon as
you got to go to
gotta-
college.
yeah,
You got to go to college. You got to go to college.
No
you
matter
gotta go to
what,
college.
no matter what the degree's in.
So it was one of those deals where, my father was like, that's all he talked about. And I didn't want to disappoint him. So I went to college. And I went to college for a silly reason. And I didn't want to go. And now I have all the student loan debt. And here's the thing. So I try to see both sides of everything. So what I would say is this. I'm not for forgiveness at all. I signed the paper, and whether or not that was my dumbass fault, it's still my dumbass fault. I think it's ridiculous that when you graduate from high school, you don't have the credit to buy a car, but you can borrow $100,000 to go to college.
Boy, amen.
But at the same respect, 100 years ago, at that age, you'd owned your own farm. So,
right.
You have to have some kind of responsibility. So I think we split the middle. I think we say, hey, look, we're not forgiving these loans, but cut the interest out, let people pay what they owe back, and be done with it. And then the bigger step is stop doing it. We have all these bills and shit about student loan forgiveness, and everybody's arguing about it and bitching about it. And the whole time we're doing that, they're still giving them.
Right. They're still sucking people in.
Like let's just pretend for a minute that Biden's plan is good. And we're going to forgive all student loan debt right now today. We're still giving them.
Right.
So what are we going to do in another 20 years?
Right.
We're going to forgive it again?
Yeah.
We're just going to give it another $1 billion?
But that's what I mean, Josh. Why can't look? I'm not. I know that this is kind of like an Obama way of looking at things, but a society that put money into education and made it like this. Why couldn't it be a look? We'll pay for your college as long as you maintain a B average. And you're going into something that will benefit the society or in general. Why should you have to pay an exuberant amount of money just to get an education?
So I understand your point, but I think that's a utopian way of looking at things because if we're being honest, okay, what happens when everyone goes to college?
No one, but not everyone's going to go to college.
But I mean, it's easy to say that not everyone would.
Look at how stupid people are.
But what if they did? I mean, if it's free, why not go?
Then that would be amazing.
Would it be?
Yeah, I think it would. I think you'd have a society that benefited more from smarter people, especially in the political realm.
Okay, so I agree with you on the stance that I wish people weren't fucking stupid.
There you go.
But and to pull an old adage out that sucks. Again, it's terrible to say. The world needs its ditch diggers.
Well, of course, but you're still going to have those people.
So what? You're going to send everybody to college, and then some of them are going to what? Some of them are going to fill potholes? No.
So you think everybody would go?
Absolutely. When you were 18, if somebody said you could go to college for free, would you not go?
No, absolutely not.
Well,
Absolutely not. But I have a different story though. I had a teacher tell me that I wouldn't amount to anything unless I went to college, and so I was like, "Okay, bitch, I'm definitely not going to college now because I'm like you. I'm an entrepreneur that wanted to prove that I had something to give without having to go down, without being a part of the ant farm."
Well, that's an interesting thing that you just said though. So, and I think we miss that a lot. So you said that I have something to give.
Right.
I thought the same thing. But you understand that we're raising a generation now that doesn't think they have shit to give.
Right.
They don't think they have anything to give.
Right.
So I knew. I told my parents, look, I just don't want to go to college. I just don't. I'm a salesman. I know what I am.
Right.
I'm a bullshitter, man. I know what I am.
It's not something you can learn in school.
My uncle that you've met that brought me here for the first time, I do his old job. When I was 10 years old, I can remember sitting at Thanksgiving and my grandfather saying, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want Uncle Claude's job." I knew.
Claude
Now,
is a stud, by the way.
Hey, look, is that a job that you're going to be rich and famous? No. But it's a job you can enjoy. I've made a really good living at doing. I'm not a rich man, but, you know.
But what's the definition of a rich man, though?
Well,
like, dude, if your bills are paid and you've got a surplus of money and you don't have to worry about your financial situation, in my opinion, dude, you're a rich man.
you're not a hunter.
Well,
Unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it costs $30,000 to go to moose hunt now.
You're absolutely right.
But look, Josh, I think we're at a point where we have to take a realistic look at things. And it's looked down upon now to be realistic. If you look back to the greatest generation, it wasn't embarrassing for a guy to be a street sweeper.
Right.
That wasn't embarrassing.
He had a job.
It shouldn't be.
Right.
It shouldn't be. That guy took care of his family, food on the table every night. They went on vacation once a year, and that was their life. And maybe his kids decided they wanted more. But now we're at a point where everybody wants more for their kids, but they don't know how to get there. So I'm at the age now, I don't have children. But at 43, I have a lot of friends that have kids that are getting out of high school. And I look at them and it makes me crazy. I'm like, do you think that by running out and buying your 16-year-old a brand new BMW and not making him have a job and sending him to some private college that they're going to be successful?
Right.
Because to me, that makes me want to run my face into a fucking wall.
For sure. But you shouldn't separate classes by who is able to afford to go to college or get entrenched in debt for the rest of their lives.
I agree, but here's the thing. I don't believe that you can say that, because I also have plenty of friends that went to college, got student loans, had poor parents, and now they make a shitload more money than I do.
But they're probably still paying on their student loans.
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, I have a friend that's a dentist that, you know, grew up with poor parents and went to dental school. I mean, the guy makes more money than I will ever make.
Right.
And he took personal responsibility. While I was in college drinking and doing whatever the hell I was doing, playing around in fraternities, not giving a shit about college, he went to dental school. And now he's reaping the benefits. And I think that's where we're missing the point is like, we've gotten to a point where there is no personal responsibility. I have friends that still talk about their children that are 25 years old. Oh, the kids are coming home. Oh, this isn't your kid.
Yeah, no.
Just because you send them just because you still send them money.
No, I'm with
this is not your kid. I mean,
no, and I
respect my dad for that, because my dad was my dad. Listen, my parents are gold. They have done more for me than I could ever wish for. But when my dad gave you money, he knew every cent he gave you.
Right.
And he expected it back. And you didn't. It was never a thing where he had to ask you for it, because it was a respect thing. You know, I mean, when I first went into business for myself, my dad, you know, was able to, and my parents didn't have a lot of money, but my dad was able to help me out with a little bit of money, and it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to get me started. And it wasn't a thing where I think the generation now doesn't understand. It's not a thing where it wasn't a deal where I didn't worry about him asking me for it, because I knew and he knew that the day I have the money to give it back to you, I'm going to give it back to you, because my first priority is that. And I don't think this generation, I think they're more now like, well, I'll pay it back when I have to, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement with you. I just wish that they made it. It pisses me off that if you're from another country, you can go get free education here.
Absolutely. But that's a different topic, though.
No, I know it is, but I all the way around, we wouldn't be in the situation that we were if we put money back into our society. But because they're so focused on regulation and making money, they don't want to do that. That would better the situation.
And I'm a believer in what you're saying. I mean, I do a mentorship program. I have a kid that I mentor that's in high school that I've had for a few years, and I eat lunch with them on Thursdays.
Has that been rewarding?
It's been very rewarding because I've seen the difference. And so in my mind, just in my little community that I live in, when people ask me like, why do you do this? Well, it's the answer is simple, because I already paid 31% in taxes. Do I want another one on the dole, or do I want another one that's successful? And so if everybody took an hour out of their week, because I've seen the difference it makes. Man, I had a kid that I mentor that, was not good in school and got in a lot of trouble. And really all he needed was somebody to show up on Thursday at lunch and be like, dude, that's not cool.
What made you want to do that?
Man, I had a fefew friends that did it in Conroe, and I went to high school with a girl that runs a program, and I heard about it and I asked her about it. And I just, I got to an age where I was looking for something to make me feel good about me. And I think that's the way everybody gets started in this deal, is that you're looking for a way to feel good about you. But then what it turns into is it's not about you at all. It's really about, like I don't give the kid gifts. I don't buy him a lot of stuff. I take him a nice lunch on Thursdays, and I listen to him talk. And I listen to what's going on in his life. Because maybe, I don't think his parents are terrible, but I think maybe they just, they're in a situation where they don't have a lot of money and they have a lot to worry about. And so with me being there on Thursdays and saying, what's going on in school this week? Tell me about it. Like and then giving him just I don't ride the kid. I just say, he tells me things and I find ways to be like, well, look, man, why that didn't work, right? Why you got in trouble for this. Why this isn't playing out for you is because you're doing something that's not setting you up for success.
Right.
So the way I feel about it is just in my little county, in my group of friends, I feel like when my friends ask me, why do you do this? I'm like, look, man, if all of us did this, just how many of us there is,
right?
You could take that many more people off the welfare dole. Like,
I see what you're saying.
It in the long run, it helps you, but at the same time, it helps somebody else that you can actually look at and see make a difference that maybe would have slipped through the cracks. Maybe this kid would have been, the kid that fell into some stupid shit and didn't do good with his life. And I honestly feel like this kid now, man, I think he's going to be successful.
That's really cool that you did that, though. Like, that's to take time out of your schedule to go and spend time with another human being. It's too bad. It's too bad more people aren't like that, though.
Well, I wish more people would do it because it's actually rewarding. Because I think successful people like to see things happen that work out. Like you go through life wanting everything you do to have a great ending. If you think you're successful and you think you want to be. And so you do this and you see a kid go from maybe not so great to great, and it does make you feel good in a way for yourself, but at the same time you also, the human being side of you look at it and you're like, man, that was not hard.
Right. It costs nothing to be
It costs nothing.
Right?
It cost me $15 a week to take him lunch. You know what I mean? I was going to eat lunch anyway. Why not stop by the school? It's not that big of a deal.
Who nursed your philanthropy side? Where does that come from?
So when I was growing up, my dad was into everything. So we live in Conroe, Texas, and my family's old there, and it's kind of one of those deals where I really don't know any other way to say this, but you know, we're not a big family now there, but when I was growing up, we were. So it's kind of like a rags to riches to rags kind of thing.
Sure.
And so when I was growing up, you know, my dad didn't have a lot of money, but my father was always like, you know, my dad was in the Lions Club and the Friends of Conroe and the JJYP and the YMCA. And, you know, he donated a lot of his time. And I can remember him doing that whenever I knew from an early age, like I didn't have blinders on. I knew why my dad was doing, you know, tractor jobs on the weekends, because my parents provided a great life, but they didn't have a lot of money. I knew why my dad was, you know, making hay before Christmas. I knew why he was doing that, you know, I mean, to provide a good Christmas. But the guy always took time out. He was president of this, that, you know, it was always some kids club or, like I said, Lions Club, and we would have the rodeo and the glasses drive, and he always involved me, man. I mean, it was always a thing, and it was a fun thing. I mean, you know, I can remember Dad being like in the Friends of Conroe, and we had the Montgomery County rodeo, and Dad and his friends would have a great time. I mean, they'd drink and have a good time, but they put it on for the right reason. You know what I mean? It was making money for charity, and I think we've unfortunately moved away from that. Like I try to find opportunities like that, but what I find myself doing is quitting, because I'm like, this has become a club.
Right.
So it's not, the end goal for me has to be, we can have fun and do it, but it's got to be raising money for something that not is in the paper, something that means something.
Right.
Like the mentor thing. It cost me nothing. I get a lot out of it.
But look, I see a lot of people come through here that have done well.
Sure.
But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast, is you're very down to earth and very grounded for someone that has been as successful as you have. And I think it's really easy when you hit a level of success to tend not to care about those other things and just go about your day and do the things that you want to do. So I just think it's commendable that you take that approach, because I don't think that's a common thing.
Well,
especially nowadays.
I don't know that it's a common thing, but I will say this. So I am a long way from the 1%. But
allegedly,
I think the 1% gets a bad rap.
Oh, for sure.
Because if you just look at it, they pay all the taxes, and you got guys like, and let's use Donald Trump. I mean, let's use him. You can hate the guy, fine. But I mean, let's look at what Donald Trump has given monetarily to charity. You can hate him. Let's even pretend for a minute that he's a shitty guy. Let's pretend that he's horrible. He's grabbing pussies every day. Is it, I mean, but even if we think that, I mean, is it a lie that the man has given millions of dollars to charity? That's not a lie.
No, I mean, that's also the business side of it though too. I mean, those 501(c)(3)s.
You're
man.
right. Hey, look, you're right, but the money's there.
No, you're right.
You're
right.
So, and that's another thing I don't have a problem with. Look, if you want to join the mentor program and you want to do it for your own good and it helps a kid, fine. I'm pragmatic. I mean, what works.
Right.
So, you know, if I don't personally think Donald Trump's a bad guy, personally, I think he's a fucking stand-up great guy.
And
but
you think he's going to win? I want your prediction.
So I will tell you this. 3 years before Donald Trump ran for president and won, my dad and I were eating lunch at Honeybee Ham in Conroe, Texas. And my dad and I, we go to lunch a lot, and my dad and I have great conversations, man. I mean, they're usually political, and I mean, we have a great time. We rap about it. Sometimes we get in arguments, but Dad and I, some of the best times of my life are just sitting around with my dad talking about these things we talk about. And I told him, I said, Obama was the president. Like him or love him, whatever, I don't give a shit. I thought he was terrible. I fucking almost lost my house during Obama. Whatever. But I told my dad, I said, who's going to run for president? He was like, who? I said, Donald Trump. My dad laughed. He was like, why would you come up with that? And I was like, well, so Donald Trump was a guy that I followed. Like, I just followed. I followed him on social media. I listened to his shit that he would put on YouTube. I followed his sons. One of his sons is like a big time hunter. And he said a few things live on air, and I was like, this fucker's thinking about running for president. And I told my dad that, and he laughed at me. And so nowadays, like, my dad's the kind of dude who's like, oh, man, you never said that. I told you that. Whatever. But I think that he came along at a time whenever that was the only thing he could be. Because if you look at it, like, we're so celebrity-minded.
Oh, yeah, we put them on pedestals.
Right.
Yeah.
So he came along at a perfect time. He was a celebrity, but at the end of the day, he doesn't give a shit about nothing.
Yeah.
He really doesn't. And I personally don't understand, how can you be mad at a guy that has less money than he did before he was president?
Right.
To me, that's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I get on Twitter and it's like, oh, Donald Trump making money being the president. I'm like, hey, you fucking moron. I mean, the guy has less money.
Right.
That's public knowledge.
He could have made more money not being the president. But
Abso-fucking-lutely.
But I don't think, I think initially, I don't think he thought he was going to win.
I don't know that he thought he was going to win, but I don't think it was as late as everybody thought. I see all this shit that, like, he thought on election night he found out he was going to win. I don't believe that.
I agree with you.
I think that at the last debate, I'm watching the last debate, and I literally felt like I could feel it in his face. I was like, this son of a bitch just realized he's about to win the presidency. And I truly believe, and maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know everything. So maybe I'm dumb. But I honestly believe when I hear him talk, and I have personally gone and seen him speak 4 times. I've waited in line. I've done all that shit. I truly believe that when he talks and he's talking about what he's going to do and being the president, I honestly believe in my heart that he's being truthful. I really do. I don't think he's making it up. I don't think that when he talks about what it is to be an American and, what America's about, like, when you look at a guy's face, you can tell. Like, for me, the test is easy. If I go to a baseball game and the national anthem comes on and they tell you look at the flag, I'm going to tear up every time. I just am. I have seen that guy in person 4 times and speaking to a crowd, and when he starts talking about America, you can look at his face and he looks like I feel. And I don't think that you can make that up. If he's making it up, he is the devil.
Well, I don't know why in the hell. The thing that kind of was interesting to me, see, I didn't think he was going to run again. I thought it was like, man, that guy escaped by the hairs of his chinny chin the first time because of how many people were against him and all of the controversy. And I thought, you know what, he'll ramp it up for the Republicans, but he won't run again. The fact that he wants to put himself through that again is beyond me, because that is, I don't care who you are, Democrat or Republican.
Sure.
Anyone. We just saw it locally with our local elections,
right, with
our mayor running.
Yeah.
It's a doggy thing to go through.
Well, and Josh, the thing is I can't personally put myself in his shoes. Like, why? I can't imagine why he would do it. Like, I get it. Like, you say, well, he's the ultimate narcissist and he just wants to be president. Like, why would you not want to lay around in your New York penthouse?
Yeah. Not having to
You know
worry
what I'm
about
saying?
anything but your next tea time.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if he's such a bad guy and he's a narcissist, why is he doing this?
No, I credit him for exposing the ludicrousness that is our political system.
It's insane.
When I saw him go after Hillary Clinton in that first debate and say things I've never seen anyone say on live TV.
well, that no one
before,
would say to her.
Right. I was like, dude, this guy, I mean, if anything, I'll say this, it's going to be extremely fun.
Well, because think
to
about
watch.
it. I mean, if you cross her, you end up on her list.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
we've all
yeah.
seen the list.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she just happens to know, whatever it is now, 22 people that have died in either suicide or a one-car wreck. I mean, the rest of us can go our whole life and know 3, but, she knows 80.
Okay, well, so I want you to plug your company really quick. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but if people want to experience the kind of hunting you've been talking about, how can they get a hold of you?
So, qualityhunts.com. And obviously they can call me at any time. I don't know why. I should stop doing this. But I even answer like telemarketers. Sometimes I fuck with them, but I mean, I'm a salesman. So like I have to answer the phone. I have to.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, qualityhunts.com. And, we like to pride ourselves. Like I have something for everybody. I mean, usually when a guy calls me, I ask him, like, what's your budget? And I'm not asking that because I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire and just do that. I actually just do that business because, man, I love to get a picture from somebody I just sent on a hunt and see the big ass, like, I call it grip and grin. Like the grip and grin photo behind whatever the hell it is they're hunting. Like I love it. I love it. And I have something for everybody. Like I've got something for the guy that saves his pennies and can spend, a couple grand this year. And I have something for the guy that, is Donald Trump's son that wants to go on a $80,000 sheep hunt. I've got it all.
Well, I want to come down and do the hog hunt.
Yeah, man.
Because
love to have you.
that sounds like an absolute
I'd love to
blast.
have you because, I mean, we're always looking for people to shoot things that we hate. Yeah, so, and it's crazy because, like, I probably get, like, a lot. I mean, 10, 12 phone calls a month. Like, people from other states are like, man, I want to come hunt some hogs. I'm like,
okay.
Really? Because, I mean, they've been there. They've been in Texas. Like, they've been on my personal ranch since, I was like 12. I mean, I remember the first time we saw them, my dad was like, what the fuck is that? Like, we had no idea. Like, we literally did not know what the fuck they were. So it kills me when people are always like, they call me and they're like, man, I want to go on a hog hunt. And I'm like, you know what? I can set it up. And that right there should tell you, like, I'm not trying to get over anybody because we give those things away. Like, there's no money in that. Most of our ranches are like, they're charging you for like food because they're like, fuck, please come kill them all.
No, I think it would be an absolute blast.
But I get it. I mean, if you're from somewhere else, I mean, I see how you would think that would be cool.
Well, yeah, man.
It's just I grew up. I mean, we're like, oh my God, we're deer hunting. Here come the fucking hogs again. I mean, I got to where I'm sitting in a deer stand with a bow and an AR-15. Like fucking they come in, I'm killing all of them.
Well, you'll come on every time you come in. You'll come into town now.
Absolutely.
So I guess it's a good time to announce we're doing a season 2.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so we're excited about that, and
I'm happy to come on next year and tell you, like, how the new House of Representatives is doing.
Oh, dude, we'll have so much to talk about.
I can give you the full rundown of which one are shitbags and
dude,
which one are.
We're gonna have a different president probably by the next time you come down.
Well, I mean, if we don't, the one that we have is going to be fucking asleep. So
rather it's Kamala
the
Harris.
poor guy. I mean, look, hold on. Let's take a minute. I'm going to take over the show for the second.
That's fine. Take it.
Let's talk about
this is a Josh moment.
Our current president. So I personally am a person that I respect the office of the president.
Sure.
I try to just not say anything when it's bad,
But be respectful of the office.
Right, because it's the office of the president. You're the most powerful person on the planet.
If Obama would have called me to come and talk to him, I would have kissed his ass.
I would have gone 100%.
Absolutely.
I probably would have had some backhanded comments for the fucking guy. But I would have went.
But would you, though? Would have you rocked the boat? Would have you taken that?
I would have rocked it a little bit.
Or would have you been like, I'm in the Oval Office?
I would have gave it a shove.
Have you ever been in the Oval Office?
I have not. So, I will say this. I think that it is elderly abuse. And they don't put any of it on TV. So, I'm not a TV guy. I don't watch TV. I don't have cable. I realized like 4 or 5 years ago, I would wake up every day and I would lay in bed and I would turn on the news and I would drink coffee and then I would get in the shower and every morning I was pissed in the shower. Every morning. And I was like, I'm a shower guy. Like, my knees hurt, my back hurts, my shoulders hurt. Like, I'm a shower guy. Like, I want a hot shower. That's my time. And I realized one day, I was like, every day I get in the shower when it's supposed to be my time, and I'm fucking pissed. So one day I was like, that's it. And I cut off all the cable. And I got happier. But, the thing is they don't tell us any of the bad shit unless you look for it. So I don't get my news off of the news. I get it off of like YouTube when people are filming it. And if you look at all that, the guy is a fucking wreck. He's a mess.
Yeah.
He's turning around to shake hands with people that aren't there.
Right.
That is elderly abuse.
Yeah.
If you did that to your dad and he was, I think, Joe Biden's 76? If your dad was 76 and you let him do that, they would put you in jail.
Absolutely.
So we're just going to let it happen on TV.
No, the situations they put him in are baffling.
Yeah, so even if I'm wrong, and even if my side is terrible, and we're the Nazis, or whatever the fuck they like to say, and I'm the bad guy, I mean, can we at least agree that it's pretty bad that you put a guy on TV that reads a paper and says, I'm walking in now? I mean, like, what? And they skip that whole part on TV, but then you go on YouTube and watch the whole press conference and you're like the guy's like, I'm walking in now. I'm sitting down. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know how he debates Trump.
See, and that's the thing. Well, I don't know if you've noticed. So in these midterm elections, this is the first time in history, and this pissed me off, that we've had, in these midterm elections, we had a lot of people refuse to debate. And the reason they're doing that is setting it up for the presidential election. Because I would bet my bottom dollar that whoever the Democrat nominee is, which at this point is probably going to be Biden because they don't have anybody else. I mean, they have Kamala, who can't even speak, and they have Buttigieg, who runs on I'm gay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which isn't.
I mean,
not there's anything wrong with that.
I'm
That's
fine.
Not a strong,
I'm fine with you being gay. I just don't think it's a strong platform.
They just voted someone in that had a stroke, dude. Like it's looking
Right.
pretty good for.
Right.
It's looking pretty
Right.
good for Biden.
So I think that they're doing that in these midterms to. We're setting it up for. Oh, these debates aren't going to be fair. We're not going to do them because it's going to be Biden.
Right.
And they're going to be like, we can't even get this guy to the stage. He sure as hell can't. Like, Trump's going to ask him 3 questions, and he's just going to do that thing he does, like, hey, wait a minute.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Or brother. I mean, when he says that, like, to these industry guys, he goes to these plants, he's like, come on, brother.
Come on, brother.
You know, these guys are like, dude, if you weren't the president, I would knock you the fuck out.
Even talk to you. Get this guy a glass of insurance.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that is a complete setup that we are not going to see presidential elections, or excuse me, presidential debates, which would be
unprecedented,
stupid to me.
Yeah,
because there has been. I mean, we're about the same age. I mean, we've watched a lot of presidential debates.
Yeah.
I haven't always known in the debates who I thought was the best person.
Right.
Like, that's what you want to see. Like, I want them to ask them the hard questions and see how they answer. Well, now we're not going to do that? I mean, we got governor races where people are refusing to do that. I mean, if Greg Abbott had done that in Texas, I would have voted Democrat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. It's
like you're not
going to
debate
from that.
No.
Absolutely. Stand up and do what you're supposed to do.
No.
The people want to hear it go back and forth.
Well, I want to know what you actually. I want to know what you think. I mean, are you a shitbag or are you not? I mean,
that. Despite a lot of the things that I think Trump could have handled a lot better, that is one of the things that I like about him. That he just is who he is, and he just speaks his mind wherever the hell he's at. I mean, he's only saying what's being said behind closed doors in other settings.
Well, I mean, if we're just being honest, he's just saying what we're thinking.
Just saying what it is, right?
He's saying what we're saying right now in your studio.
Exactly.
Which is complete horseshit. I mean, it is insane to me that the guy can say 1/10 of what I say at lunch every day, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's a racist." What? So hiring the first black woman that's ever built a high rise makes him a racist?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, no, it's that's cancel culture right now. Don't even get me started on that.
Oh, good Lord.
That is a whole other rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
that is the freedom of speech thing. But did you see Dave Chappelle's opening monologue for SNL?
Love it,
dude. What?
Love it.
I love that.
Love
dude.
it. Love
That
it.
guy can say.
Love it. But you know
can say
what
whatever the
I
hell he
thought
wants.
was the greatest about Chappelle? So this last deal he did before the SNL thing, when he was talking about Trump, and he was like, you know, y'all hate Trump. He's like, I'm rich. I love him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
just honesty.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, you know what? Let's be honest. Am I making more money because of Trump? No. If I was a millionaire, would I be? Yes.
Yeah.
But guess what? My boss is a millionaire. I only have my job, and I only do what I do, and I only do as well as I do because my boss and his company have a lot of money.
Right.
So we're at a point where people don't see that. Like, it doesn't matter who you work for. If you're a burger flipper at McDonald's, you realize you only have the burger flipper McDonald's job because there's a McDonald's.
There's a McDonald's there. Right.
I mean, we've lost sight of that.
No, I totally agree.
I mean, I think we've gotten to a point where people are, oh my God, I do all the work. The boss makes all the money. Well, guess what? If I'm the boss, I expect to make more money.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm in a unique position where I work for multiple companies and I own multiple companies, so I see both sides of it. And guess what? The ones I work for, I get a check and I'm happy,
Right.
and I understand why they make more money. And the ones that I own, I expect to make more money.
Absolutely.
And if
You're the creator.
the secretary that answers the phone has a problem with it, then I'm gonna find somebody else.
That's why I'm glad I have Leeds as my secretary.
Oh.
I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the hell I'd do without her, Josh. It's
Thank
the
God.
truth.
Thank God, Leeds is here.
No, thank God. It's I'm kidding.
She's actually. I mean, there's no video camera here, but she's run the whole thing.
Oh yeah, no, she does, man.
She's run the whole thing.
She's the master and commander, dude. I really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, absolutely,
and
man.
taking your time to come and talk to little old me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad to do it.
We'll definitely have you on next year.
Can't wait
when you come around. But
there's
you're
no
the best,
telling
dude.
how much further right I'll go between then.
No, dude,
and like,
we're gonna
be
have
crazy.
so much to catch up on when you come back. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
I appreciate you stopping by, dude.
Yep.
You're listening to the Just Josh and You podcast. Hope that you guys are having a fabulous day, night, or whenever you're listening to this. We appreciate you listening. We're going to say peace be unto you, and we're signing off.